In this short video, I'd like to tell you briefly about a 4-year longitudinal study that we've carried out with children with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder that assesses their intellectual, academic and executive functioning. This will appear as a paper in the Journal of Developmental and Behavioural Paediatrics. Now, by way of background, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD as it's more commonly known, is a common neurodevelopmental disorder that's characterised by developmentally inconsistent levels of inattention, overactivity and impulsivity that interfere with the child's academic and at-home functioning. Now, as well as the core symptoms of the disorder, children with ADHD often show lower scores on tests of intellectual functioning, and their academic performance is typically below that of their same age peers. These children also show some deficits in their executive functioning skills. Now, in this study, we assessed comprehensively a broad range of neurocognitive functions in a well-defined sample of children with ADHD. We first assessed them at the time of diagnosis and again 4 years later. At the follow-up study, we found that 62% of the children continued to meet the diagnostic criteria for ADHD. The remaining children continued to exhibit symptoms but didn't meet the full criteria for ADHD, and we refer to these children as children in partial remission. Now, the children completed the same neurocognitive assessments at baseline and at follow-up, and these included standardised tests of intellectual functioning, academic performance, specifically math, reading and spelling, and also measures of executive function. We analysed the results at the group level and also looked at the performance of children who showed persistent ADHD and those in partial remission. And somewhat uniquely, we also assessed their intellectual and academic performance at the individual level so that we could see whether or not individual children showed reliable improvement or reliable decline in their age-corrected academic performance over time. So what did we find? Well, first, looking at the whole sample, the results at the group level showed largely stable intellectual performance. Academic performance was largely stable with the exception of spelling, which showed a decline, and the performance on measures of executive functioning was either stable or improving over time. However, the results of the reliable change analysis, that's the individual analysis, told a somewhat different picture when it came to the children's academic performance. We found that more than 20% of children showed a decline in their math, spelling and reading performance, and actually over half of the sample showed a decline in at least one of their academic subjects. Such individual analyses are not typically undertaken in longitudinal studies, and we think this raises questions about the true extent of academic performance difficulties in children with ADHD. In terms of our subgroup comparisons, we found there was no difference or no statistical difference in the children's neurocognitive performance at baseline, but when you considered both the baseline and the follow-up assessments, we actually saw that the children in the partial remission group performed better on some of the tests of intellectual, academic and executive performance. So what are the take-home messages from this study? Well, I think that the findings really do highlight the importance of monitoring academic performance in children with ADHD over time, and they clearly emphasise the need for academic remediation programs. I think the results also emphasise the importance of actually considering individual as well as group performance in longitudinal studies. And so, long-term, what are our future directions? Well, I think that it's very important for us as researchers, clinicians and educators to work together to ensure that children with ADHD do not fall further and further behind academically over time. Thank you.